Welcome to Tokyosaurus. So what's up in Japan? We've got some juicy information from Ghibli itself today about the 2006 Ghibli film Tales from Earthsea that is often ranked as the worst Ghibli film of all time. And this might actually shed some light for you as to why it might have been doomed to fail from the very beginning. In case you watched it in the past and wonder why it sucked so much compared to what you know Ghibli for, which is probably from Hayao Miyazaki's films at Ghibli, this film, Tales of Earthsea, was not made by Hayao Miyazaki, but instead was given to his son Goro Miyazaki to direct and write. It was his debut work, and there was absolutely no doubt that it was too big of a task for him to handle at that point in his career. To give you an idea of what Hayao Miyazaki thought of his son's debut work, which was recorded and broadcasted on TV after Hayao's first viewing of the film that you can actually find on YouTube now, one of the first responses he had coming out of his son's film was that Goro was not mature enough. Whether this was regarding his writing of the screenplay or his skills as a director, it was clear that Hayao realized that it might have been too early to give him such a huge task at Ghibli. So it was revealed by Ghibli producer Toshio Suzuki himself. And by the way, this is not a rumor or a leak, he himself wanted to share the story with the world and decided to do it on TV. But before we get into that story, most Ghibli films, or at least the ones that are made by the legendary Hayao Miyazaki, are usually based on or draws heavy inspiration from existing literature in the world, usually of European origin. In this case, Tales of Earthsea draws inspiration from the novel Earthsea, written by Ursula K. Le Guin. So the story here is that Hayao Miyazaki actually wanted to make a film based on Earthsea before he even made Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. And Nausicaa was actually made before the official founding of Ghibli, and its success was a big reason for the creation of Ghibli. But back then, before Miyazaki wanted to make Nausicaa, he made a direct movie offer to the author of Earthsea, Ursula K. Le Guin. But Ms. Guin rejected the offer as Miyazaki didn't exactly have a big resume for movie directing at that point in his life. Or as the article would put it, it was because Hayao Miyazaki was basically a nobody at that point. Quite harsh looking back at it now, and the Japanese comments on the article got quite heated in the direction of Ms. Guin. And around this time that Miyazaki got this heartbreaking rejection, he wrote a draft of Journey of Shuna, which was for sure inspired by elements in Earthsea. After years have passed, they were in talks to finally do the project, and here is where it gets interesting and a little confusing, as we have quotes inside quotes. But from my understanding, it seems like Ms. Guin wanted Hayao Miyazaki to do the movie, but instead was given an offer by Hayao Miyazaki that it will be Goro Miyazaki directing, but Hayao would watch over him as a producer. Obviously, that didn't end up happening as Hayao wasn't even listed as a producer or anything. But even as he wasn't a producer, Hayao Miyazaki made sure that Goro used more of Journey of Shuna in his movie, more so than Earthsea itself. So in the end, Ursula K. Le Guin did not get what she wanted and even publicly said that the plot was entirely different and was disappointed with the end result. I do think Hayao Miyazaki wouldn't actually have done Earthsea himself anyways if the offer was rejected, as having someone not believing in you and rejecting you at first only to have come back later when you're successful, that just doesn't fly with Hayao Miyazaki. He definitely has a sense of pride in his work, and the rejection definitely took a hit on that back then. Toshio Suzuki himself actually thought that Goro did a pretty good job with Tales of Earthsea as his debut work, but I think he's the only one in that camp. But when you really think about it, Goro Miyazaki's Tale of Earthsea as a debut work wouldn't be nearly as bad if he didn't have Miyazaki as his last name. The entire world had their eyes on Goro, expecting him to create a masterpiece from the get-go to the level of Hayao Miyazaki, and that just simply isn't fair. I mean, I'm not saying the film Tales of Earthsea was excellent, but having to debut behind the shadows of Hayao Miyazaki, still in his prime, one of the greatest animators of all time, is almost an impossible task. And if you're wondering how Goro is doing now, he's actually kinda redeemed himself despite the immense pressure that's given to him. He's released another Ghibli movie in 2010 from Up on Poppy Hill that did much better than Tales of Earthsea in terms of general audience reception, and more recently directed an anime series called Ranja the Robber's Daughter that's probably his best work so far. I believe this is the first and only Ghibli full anime series we've got, and even though it's not animated by Ghibli themselves, it's done by Polygon Pictures, famous for their 3D CG, and so you should definitely check it out if you haven't already as a Ghibli fan. It's a bit on the slow side, but Polygon Pictures does a pretty good job on keeping you entranced in the beautiful world of Ranja. But for those of you who want a dose of the newest work from Hayao Miyazaki, his brand new short film Boro the Caterpillar is actually being screened in Japan in the Ghibli Museum starting March 21st, 2018. And that's definitely going to be the last release from Hayao Miyazaki before his final film in 2020. Anyways, what did you guys think of the whole reveal of Hayao Miyazaki being rejected way back in the day and being called basically a nobody? As usual, let me know down in the comments below. Don't forget to drop a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you want to be updated with the latest that's going on in Japan, and I'll see you guys in the next one.